Future risers.
Hey, hey.
I just need to ask y'all, did y'all check to see that Raised Voices has jumped in subscriptions? Listen, whoever is doing it, Father God first.
Hey, somebody say amen.
Whoever is doing it, even if you sent it to one person and if they were in obedience to click on it, we thank you. We really appreciate it. We appreciate even if it's all strangers and nobody that we know. Okay, we receive that. It is not a problem. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Right? We're not mad. We're not mad because sometimes it is the strangers that will take a shot or a chance on you before those who know you the most. So we're okay with it. We're okay. So we're closing in on 200 subscribers. So since we're closing in, what's your homework? You all know it. Just close that whole loop all the way. Okay. Take it to 200 and help us out. We really want to reach more people and have more wonderful conversation. Listen, Miss Sounds is here. Y'all say hi.
Hey, hey. How y'all doing?
Is she cute? Okay, stop it. She's taking. I told y'all about that.
Oh, exactly. Got a baby and everything, guys. Calm down. Okay.
Listen, Miss Sounds is going to introduce our people. Yes, I use the plural for a syllable because let me tell you something. She might look like a singular person, but she does many things. So she is our people today. She's not our person. She's our people today. So Miss Sounds, tell us, what are we rocking with? Who are we rocking with today? What are we doing?
Listen, I think we got Black excellence that walked in the casa today. Okay. We got Black women doing great things in this world. So inspiring. We have the one and only Rendia Scott here. Okay. Air claps. Air claps. Okay. And she is such a powerful woman. She is so gifted and she wears many, many hats in her life, and is celebrated in a variety of ways that we're excited to hear about. And so I just want to welcome you, Rendia. It is a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. We're going to do something that we always do to open up, just to warm up the palate, just warm up the spirit, which is the word of the day. And what that is we read a quote that really speaks or resonates with us. And then each of us go around and just talk about how that impacts us right in this moment right now.
Yes.
So I'm going to start by reading the word of the day. We'll go around and then we're going to jump straight into this conversation. So the word of the day is: every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. And that is by Harriet Tubman. You better say that, girl.
I'm just saying. That's a big one because we got a big personality in here. So we had to get deep.
Yes. Look, I'll start it off because there's a particular part that stands out to me just right now in this moment, which is the part where it says, always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and change the world. So the one thing that's really sitting out right now is the patience part, okay?
You're getting transparent, y'all.
I'm getting transparent. I'm telling all my business right here, okay? Because there's so much blessing to being a Black woman who has a lot of giftings and a lot of ways to impact the world. The patience part can be the challenge or the thing that for me, I often wrestle with, because there's so much and you're waiting for the when. When is it time to unleash the so much, right? Or what order, that kind of thing. And so it's good to know that patience lives within me. Um, I can access it. And delay doesn't mean denial, doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. Timing is everything. And listening to that, the spirit in me that says, slow and steady, when it's time, you'll know when to shift, is really, really important. Because I think that while having the strength and the passion is good, used at the wrong time, you can mess up the whole thing. Okay. You can mess up the whole thing, or take longer to accomplish what was intended. Gotta go back around, undo some things, unlearn some things. So for me, what's speaking to me is having patience while you have passion and while you have the strength.
Yeah, I'm going to let Rendia go, but I'm going to say it again because I want to plug certain parts of this. Every, not one, not two, not some, every great dream begins, not ends, not starts in the middle of it, at the onset, early stages. Every great, not any dreaming. Okay, not lazy chilling out dreaming. Great vision, purpose, those ones, great ones, begin with a dreamer. So, parents, if you have sons that dream, stop shutting them down. Oh, yeah, I said it. I broke it down intentionally, but let me say one thing further. I'm talking to me too, because I have a dreamer, and I used to shut down those dreams instead of listening. Thank God I'm on the other side now. I listen, and I've learned at my big old age from the little dreamer. Okay, so I ain't just talking to you today. It goes on to say, always remember, not amnesia, baby. Always remember, you have within you strength. First thing, you can be strong if you want to be. You can. Whether they gave it to you or not, you have it. Activate it, wake it up. You have the patience. Choose to have it. Don't wait for the best circumstance or environment. Just choose to have it. Everything crazy around you, choose to be patient. And the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. You have all three of those in you. Rendia, help the people. Because I'm trying, but I need help.
Well, first, I just have to thank you for even thinking and considering me to come in and just share my thoughts and who I am with you guys. I just so appreciate it. And you never think that when you're doing stuff, what it's going to lead to and how it happens. Yes. That word of the day was a mouthful. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah,
it was a mouthful.
It definitely was. Yes.
And what stayed with me was what I guess, and I guess it makes sense, what you're dealing with right now. And it was the word strength. And in everything that you do, sometimes you have to be able to have the courage to step forward.
Oh, wow.
And, I was talking to you earlier when you came to a ceremony at my church. Yes. And you heard me say, when you make the decision that you are going to follow the steps that God has ordered for you, it's not always an easy path. And, to quote my pastor, Jesse V. Bottoms, he said, if you're going in the same direction as the devil, of course you're not going to have no opposition because you're doing exactly what he wants you to do. And so it kind of reminds you, it's a reminder, okay, you must be doing something in the right direction because there's opposition. But with that opposition, there comes the courage or the strength to step forward and continue to do it and be willing to stand because you're not just doing it for you, but more so you're doing it for the people who are behind you.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to open that door so others can come in right behind you.
Yes.
And that was, you know, you do it, you're going to do it for all.
Yes.
You know, think about it. Think about the path of the originator who wrote that word of the day.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly.
She opened the door. She said, you can all come, but if you mess this up for me, I'll shoot you down myself.
Absolutely.
But she didn't stop anybody and look and say, yeah, I'm not taking you. She took them all.
Yes.
But those people made the decision of what they were going to do. And it's the same thing follows through for me. Because people will say, you're going to run into a lot of people who will not either have the courage or the strength to do some of the things that you're doing, or those who will come in behind you and forget that you did anything for them. So you're not going to you're going to stop. You're not going to do it for anybody, and you can't do that.
Yes.
You know, you have to continue to open the door, because for every one person or two people that are coming in who may not remember, there's 2 to 4 that will.
Yes.
And that's making progress. That's making community, and that's building strength. So
y'all ready now? Okay. If you're driving, seatbelt, please. You should have did it before you pulled out onto the road.
Yes.
So for us some of us live on side streets. Strap in now. Now, don't go on the main road yet. Rendia done started with y'all. Y'all got to catch up. I keep telling y'all got to catch up.
She did.
Listen.
She got in your business.
She got all in this. Okay. But it's for the good. Good intentions.
Yeah. We love you.
We're not here to hurt nobody, okay? I mean, the only thing I will add with these great women that have already spoken is I love that it leads back to state of mind. Some emotions can be a direct connection to your state of mind. If you keep telling yourself, I'm not patient, you won't activate patience. If your state of mind is, I'm not a patient person. I just ain't a patient. You know how we do Black. I ain't a patient, but my people were not a patient, but I'm not. State of mind. The quote says it's in you. And some way of escape requires patience. And some way of rescue requires patience. And some way of support, you know, it requires patience. So what I would add is that a lot of the things that are good things to have that you don't believe you have, they are sitting in there. And you have got to speak them up into yourself until they become an everyday being who you are. I didn't say to believe them. I said speak them up. And then one day you do enough speaking to the things that you would like to be, the things you'd like to feel, the things you'd like to become. You might shock yourself. You might get up one day and feel those things as a natural part of you. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Sounds, because she always save y'all when I go too deep, too fast. As I will always do on every episode.
And will. No, that was so good, Azali. We should just jump into the conversation right now. I'm excited. I know you're excited to have this with Rendia. Yeah. I want to know, we want to know, audience wants to know, who is Rendia Scott on a real level? Who is she?
Yes.
What excites her? And you know what? We'll save the last bit of the question, but who are you? What excites you about life?
Okay. So I come to you as Rendia Scott, and I work at SUNY New Paltz. But my priority is I am a woman of God. I'm a wife. I'm a mother to 2 beautiful children, and I have a loving family that I'm blessed, and I know that. I know that because I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that I do without the love and support of my family, first and foremost.
Yeah.
But I also serve as an unconscious role model, which my daughter made very clear to me.
Yes.
And in conversation. And, more so than anything else, I'm happy. I'm happy with the choices I make. I'm happy with the people that I have brought into my circle. And I'm happy with, the things that I do and how I do it. I live by integrity.
Yeah.
And believing that sometimes you do need to stand alone when you're standing for right, and just walk away and say you stood for right. But I think first and foremost, above everything else, and this continues to be proven to me every day, God is watching me.
Oh boy.
He is watching me, and I pray that I continue to do as he chooses me to do. And I pray that I have the courage to do it, because sometimes some of them things he be asking you to do, I'm like, you want me to go and where, God? Wow. So
Yes.
it's just the simplest way to put it to you. Terms of the logistics, I am a member of Beulah Baptist Church. I am a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. I stand as the rower advisor, who is the person who works with our youth club, ages 12 to 18. My daughter is a member. I'm a member of the Divine Nine Council, the immediate past president. We founded our first foundations under our leadership. And I am a leader within my church and active within church ministries. I serve as a deaconess and the junior deaconess co-servant ministry leader. And then my job, I have been the advisor and now director of Center of Business Advising at SUNY New Paltz within the School of Business. And that is my access to a lot more youth and my influence that I have. I think I hit all pieces.
Oh, you hit everything, everybody got pop, poop, poop, pop, pop. I think everybody got served today. Yes.
Yeah, we did.
She got the people in the back row too, Mrs. Sounds, because we got some back row people that listen to be like, sit down and let us finish the conversation.
They were taking notes. They stopped because they were like, that's a lot.
No, boy, they going to the bathroom. No, sit down. You just
So I also, in terms of my volunteerism, I'm also I do service within the community, which is my connections out there. And I currently recently inducted onto the board of trustees for the Hudson Valley Community Foundations of Hudson Valley. I also serve as a Duchess Grant Advisory Committee, review grants, and I recently accepted the call to serve on the board for the Boys and Girls Club of Newburgh. So I'm waiting for the vetting, and we'll go from there. But that one is near and dear to my heart. Because I've been involved with the Boys and Girls Club for some time in different venues, and to be able to take that stance and lend assistance and service however I can, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, y'all hear that? So when I tell y'all get up off the couch and let's get moving, I think y'all understand it a little better now. Sometimes you have to invite a guest to come talk to the family.
Amen.
Yes, you do. Yes.
And for those of you who want to know when she sleeps, I'm going to ask that question.
Girl, around after 9:00, 9:30, my family and people know I don't function very well. I start talking about fried Oreo cookies, and it's not a good look. So
yeah.
Yes. Go ahead, Miss Sounds. What? Go ahead. She's going to take you down the road to live for. Take her down the road to live for.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, one thing that I really I know to be I think a real truth in life is that there are things that you set as goals in your life that you seek to achieve, but then there are things that won't let you rest inside. Like there are dreams that don't let you rest. They keep coming back to you. They keep calling out to you. It's something God placed in you, right? And how do you differentiate as you're moving through all these roles? What is a goal and what is actually a dream?
So, in all honesty, I thought about that and I'm just thinking, I don't know if I've ever really considered myself a dreamer. I've
Okay.
always been boots on the ground kind of.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's been, sometimes it's reactive, but it's, you see a need and then you're like, we need to fix this. But somebody needs to be willing to step in to do that work, to help with it and say, this would be beneficial. And sometimes you really just need a worker. And I have no problem doing that. I have no problem being the worker bee to get it done and to make sure that, with a heart of service, you ensure that you provide the needs to people who may not necessarily have received it a different way.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially moving up to this community, I'm a, I guess the term is I'm a transplant. I'm originally not from up here. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. And, growing up in the projects in Brownsville, you kind of see things differently. Your mother raises you with intention that she wants to protect you, in that arena. But there are just certain things you can't get out of. And the way that I have lived my life via education was from the words of my late grandfather, who, I'll tell anyone who asks me this, though, this is a man whose education was stopped at grade 7. And he was pulled out of school to work in the cotton fields to help provide money for the family to help support it. So he was actually living with my great grandparents, which was his mother's parents. He was living with them at the time. My great grandmother was part of the Great Migration and had come up to New York to serve as a home worker. So she would send money back, but it wasn't enough. And so they pulled him out of school in the 7th grade and said, you need to work and help support the family. Probably because there was about 12 kids. And the mother and the father during those times. And so he never went back to school. And his entire life, it was always an issue of concern that educationally he wasn't able to read and comprehend and understand everything that maybe someone with a high school diploma would. And that was always in the back of his head. And the one thing he said to me, which I'll never forget, is he said, make sure you get your education, because that's the one thing they can't take from you.
Yes.
Taken from him. He had his land taken from him. He had his education, he wasn't allowed to go to school and he never went back. He had material and property taken from him, and he blames it that it was just something that he didn't understand. And to the very end, he had his final monies taken from him that he had worked all his life for, and he signed off on some things that he didn't understand and couldn't read. And there you go. So he kind of set that example, and it makes you remember it, to not be in that situation, no matter who the person is that you may trust. You have to be able to understand and comprehend yourself. And that's something I kind of try to instill in my kids as well.
So link that to us, because here on Raised Voices, we do talk about the inner child, that there is always an inner child. Yes, you've gotten grown and big and mature and all of that and legal, as they say. But that inner child, does she still speak to leader, Black female leader, Rendia? And what does she say now that's similar to when she was yet young? Even though you know how to protect her now, but are there things that she still checks in with you about now that you're a woman? And she been checking since she was a child.
Mm-hmm.
She's still checking.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like? Talk to me a little about that.
Absolutely. It's the inner child still has the innocence and the simplicity of life. And the goal is just do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. She keeps me in the direction of do the right thing. If they won't do it, you should do it. Do the right thing. And that's what my innocent tells me. You know, treat people the way that you would want to be treated. You know, treat people with kindness. And as I get older, I'm going to say my teen self says, use your discernment.
Yes.
Use it.
Yes.
Because that protection of the little child comes with the use of discernment.
Yes.
And so there are decisions that I will make, and my heart of service comes from do the right thing, help people who aren't able to help themselves, but use your discernment as I get older, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. There's a connected question I want to ask you. Does your passion and hunger, that's what I'll call it, to do good in the community come from your faith or comes from your lack of growing up? Because I know nobody wants to talk about that. Or maybe both. Maybe it's from both.
I think that, well, I think a lot of it comes from, or it starts from my faith. My faith in, you know, what I'm supposed to be doing and what God wants me to do. Mm-hmm. And it comes in my faith that, well, you know, if he brought me here, he's not going to leave me. Mm-hmm. But I think the incidences in my life serve as the drivers to figure out what direction I'm going in. Yeah. And I think I mentioned this to you before. My son was the driver in that.
Do you want to share a little of what you're comfortable sharing in that? Because, of course, we want to ensure that people understand that raised voices are not just for women. Like, that's not it. Our guests have been predominantly women because they're ready to talk. But we do want to address the princes and the kings that will at some point connect to us.
So my husband and I are both from the city. We both grew up in project apartments, and we both had the opportunity to get ourselves to school. And, you know, you have this goal, right? You go to school, you're like, okay, you get your education. This is the first key to success. It doesn't guarantee it, but it's one of the keys we got to have.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You got to have something. You got to know how to do something. And, you know, my husband and I, one of our primary goals was we wanted to make sure that our children were allowed to be children as long as they were kids. Yes. So we wanted them to have a child lifestyle. And so in that, we wanted to have that child lifestyle that meant, you know, meeting our parents' expectations for the sacrifices that they made, going up, getting homes, working, whatever. And in that, providing an environment that we thought we would have loved to have had as we were growing up. Mm-hmm. But what we learned once we got up here, and I think I shared this with you before, is that while we were teaching, and my son is the oldest, while we were teaching him and allowing him to say, you know, we're going to protect your childhood. Yeah. Okay. While we were doing that, we had to put him in environments, school, where he was in a classroom with little adults. And he was in a classroom with people, children who had been groomed from very early on how to interact with him, what type of person he was, what kind of character he is, and anyone who looks like him. You understand where I'm going with this?
Yes.
We understand, and our audience understand.
And so in one of the incidents, just to give you an example, My son was in I want to say 3rd grade. And he was just playing basketball, just, entertaining himself and after school while he waited for his parents to come pick him up. And a child came up to him and said, "Hey, blah, 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 blah. Do you know why Black people are good at basketball?" And he's still innocent. He says, "Why?" And the child says to him, "Because they're good at running, jumping, and stealing things."
Wow.
And this was said to him as a 3rd grader. Guess how old the child was that told him?
I'm thinking similar age.
No, ma'am. He was in kindergarten.
Younger? Oh, I didn't see that coming. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. He was in kindergarten.
Wow.
He had a brother who was slightly older, still not in 3rd grade. But this was learned from conversations that this child had and been exposed to from his family, table talk conversations, things like that. And this was something that hit us differently.
Oh, yes.
Because you work hard to say, we want to put you in an environment to try to give you the tools and, again, make the sacrifices that our parents made, because that's what we learned.
Yeah.
But he's now in an environment that he did not expect and was not prepared at that time to deal with. Mm. Fortunately, he knew enough to say, this didn't sit right. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned it, but it took some time. Mm. And at that point, it kind of opened up our eyes and said, whew, we thought we had time to address this. Mm-hmm. And we don't. Mm. And we hit it right then and there. At that point, that institution learned who Dr. Scott and Mrs. Scott were.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And we had to. Like I said, we thought we had time. And we began to see how our Black boys are treated differently.
Yes.
And without a proper advocate, a lot of times you see Black boys tossed aside. And I remember a conversation I had with one of the principals who was in play at that time and told her, "You will not throw away my child." Mm. And it's things like that it was the first door that opened, but it kind of led to a lot of other things. I began to see other children in that environment who were unsure of themselves. A lot of children who have mixed parents, they weren't sure what culture they were going to make a connection to, how they felt about themselves, their image, how they looked, lots of insecurities, and, lots of self-hate. And that's where the conversations began, talking to these children and talking to the parents. And what I realized sometimes talking to the parents up here, I saw where the kids got it from.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I saw it. And that was concerning. So I was like, okay, this doesn't just stop here.
Yeah.
You got to have the conversations up here as well.
Yes.
And these are with parents who are making sacrifices. And that's where my journey began. But the first step was being able to recognize what you're dealing with, because that's how a lot of this stuff is gotten away with. Things are said under the table and you walk away saying, that didn't sound right, but you can't put your finger on it. Those little microaggressions that you're like, that didn't sound right, that didn't feel right, but you can't really figure out why it didn't sound right, it didn't feel right. And so I had to educate both my children on how to be children home, but how to manage themselves when they stepped out into the world. So with my son, especially because he was a Black boy, he faced a lot more of that, but and he was quiet.
Yeah. He
was quiet. But my daughter, she went in through the gate knowing, because we were prepared, we knew.
Yes.
And she made it, she knew to say something to us when something was going on, but also she was actually seeing some of the stuff that was happening with my son. So she told for him too. This kind of just led up into their schooling. And through that, I got involved. That was how I met the president at that time of the NAACP, Northern Dutchess County. Can I say her name?
Yeah.
Oh, she's passed away. It's Miss Eloise.
Mm-hmm.
So she was phenomenal in her guidance, and she took me under her wing, and she said, this is what I need you to do and how this is going to go. And from there, you just kind of got exposure to different organizations and different committees that said, you know, this is something that you can do, and this is something that you can be involved in. And so that's where it went.
Yeah.
That's where it went. I think the most disappointing piece of all of this was the fear of speaking.
Yes.
You see a lot of that when people who look like you, because there is such a retaliatory
measures that are applied.
Yes, that a lot of people say, experience, and teach you not to say anything, not to get involved, not to help. As long as it doesn't have anything to do with you, that's good.
Yeah.
And that's the piece where, I had issues with.
Yeah. I want to put a plug here. And we're going to do a part 2, guys, to get a little deeper in. But there are several things that I heard that I want us to walk away with. One, as a people, regardless of your color, when you see there is an injustice forming, especially when it directly first attaches itself to your family, you got to wise up. You got to get a plan in place. You got to teach the plan to those who have to execute the plan, and you have to execute. Can't do all this planning and do nothing else and leave it on the paper. And for those of you who will be wise enough to see what's happening, you have to educate you too. So just to see and know is not enough even for you who see it. That's what Rendia, she saw something, her husband saw something, parents got together first and said, we got to put a plan in place, babe. We got to teach the plan now to both children. Then we have to educate those who are going to interact with our kids from here on out. Like, you know what I mean? We're going all the way through.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's one piece. The second piece is this. I want you to hear how she described the conversations. She did it with finesse, education, and she spoke clearly. Why am I bringing this up? Because often in the Black communities, we think we got to rush in there, blazed up, suit up, weaponized to be heard. And we are much more than that. We are eloquent, we're educated, we're intelligent, and we can speak with clarity when we know our rights to make the point be heard without doing the other. I just need y'all to hear that. Listen to how she dealt with it. She did her research, she educated herself, and then I just need you guys to hear that, because I need you guys to know we are more than what shows up on the news. I said it. Did I make you mad? You're going to be all right. I'll send you a ginger ale so you can settle down. It's okay. It's all right. But I had to say those two things. The third thing is this. When our children are quiet, I need y'all to stop saying, oh, he's good. She's good. They just quiet. Ain't nothing bothering them. Ain't nothing going on. Their life is smooth. Can you ask? I'm just asking you. Can you check? Can we ask? I didn't say to push. I didn't say to force. That's not what I said. Don't change my words. Thank you very much. Ask. Because if you think stuff is not happening to quiet, come on. You know it is. You used to be quiet before that struggle, trial, and trauma showed up. and now you raving out there in the streets.
If anything, it happens to the quiet first.
Absolutely.
Because they can get away with it.
Don't leave them defenseless. Don't leave them defenseless. So I had to do that. I had to put some plugs in because I want you guys to hear what we're saying and not let your thoughts race to something we are not saying. So we're going to end here. We're going to do a part 2 and get into some other questions, but I felt it important to end on this note. So we will do rise and fall in part 2. Stay tuned. This one is a bit more serious, but it has to be. Don't stop listening. I'm only asking. I'm not demanding. But do the right thing. We'll see you guys in part 2.
Right.
Come back. I'm trusting you.